From Buffalo to the big leagues, this is Maddie Tells All. Hello, friends. This is my first ever episode solo. I just did an interview where I interviewed with my friends, but now it's just me and you guys. And I think everyone's been wanting to know a deep dive into who is Madeline Hall. You know, for the longest time, it's all been Buffalo food slut, BFS brand. Can I call you that? So I'm so excited for you guys to get to know me, Madeline Hall, Madeline Christie Hall, where I come from, who my parents are, who my family is, where I went to high school, and just all the details that you guys get to know about me. But I won't tell you my social security card, okay? But I do even have some old photo IDs, which I'm so excited to share with you guys, because this whole part of my podcast is I do so much in the experiential marketing world. So I want my podcast to be experiential. So I'm just so excited to just deep dive into my junk journals, into my diaries, and really open the doors for you guys to be able for you to see me. But growing up, I lived in South Buffalo. If you know, now you know. Obviously, I'm a huge Bills fan. And growing up in South Buffalo, it's still the same there. You know, my family all lives within blocks of each other, which I absolutely love because when I go to my grandparents' house and when I go to my parents' house, aunt and uncle's house, you can just walk everywhere. And Buffalo is a drinking town, so it is very nice when I go home that I can just park my car and just, walk around everywhere. But we grew up in South Buffalo, and my parents had us pretty young. They had the three of us by the age of 25, and it's crazy because I cannot imagine having three kids by 25 years old. I think that's absolutely crazy. So that really, growing up, we were very much below middle class. But it was awesome because my parents never made it a point to let us know. They were just so... we still went camping to Allegheny. We still took these vacations, but I was surrounded around a lot of friends that were going to camps every single summer. We're going to Disney, and that was not on the agenda. But my parents never let us know that. They were just so amazing, and they're just the most happiest parents I've ever met in my whole entire life. They have been married for 33 years now. Yep, I think that's because my sister's 33. And I feel like it's the reason why it's very hard for me to sometimes have a relationship, because I look at them and they are still so obsessed with each other that it is beyond beautiful what they have. To have 5 children and still have the marriage and sex life that they do, I'm just how do I keep up with that? But I'm you know what? Love isn't dead. It still exists. But I went to Catholic school, shout out St. Ambrose. I don't think it's around anymore, but I went there, and my parents' first house was on Harding, but then we switched over when I was still I think a baby, over to West Seneca West, but we are on that borderline of South Buffalo, West Seneca, and Lackawanna, which is so funny because there's a whole entire movie right now being played, and the main actor from Sirens is from Lackawanna, so it's just so funny because it is a little bit of a rough area for sure. Like I said, we grew up below middle class, and we had no kids in our neighborhood besides my best friend growing up, Jenna Dishner, who lived across the street. We had her and her 2 sisters, and we all hung out. But other than that, our neighborhood was pretty dead. It was all a bunch of old people. But I just remember all of us hanging out in the streets. My dad made it a point to teach all of us how to throw a spiral because he's no one likes a girl that doesn't know how to throw a football. So shout out Chris Hall. You made me really learn how to throw a football. Mom, you taught us how to figure skate, which is pretty awesome. I'm pretty good at skating. My mom was a national rower and figure skater. She almost went to the Olympics. She was best in Western New York. I think my brothers and sisters and I get a lot of our athleticism through her, but also my dad. He was a football coach. But yeah, eventually we switched over from Catholic school to public school, and we went to West Seneca West. And I loved it. I remember going to Potter's Road, which is now some other school, but going to Potter's Road and just being so welcomed, which is ironic because my first friend I ever had was Nick Cavs. And Nick Cavallari came up to me and was like, "You're new here. Let me show you around." took me under his wing, showed me all around Potter's Road. My first teacher was Miss Weiss, who was so innocent, so sweet, so quiet. Then I had Miss Pontillo, Mr. O'Shea, and like I just remember like always just like I made friends so fast, and I just wanted to really get to know the teachers. I wasn't like a teacher's pet, but I definitely followed the rules and did everything I could to just like impress the teachers because I wasn't the best student. Mr. O'Shea, I remember him being one of our favorite teachers. And it was St. Patty's Day, not St. Patty's Day, it was April Fool's Day. And I thought it'd be so funny to take a bunch of sponges and dip them in chocolate and cut them up as if it was sponge candy and give it to him. And then I remember I couldn't even pull through the joke before I gave it down to him. And I felt so bad. And I was like, it's not really sponge candy. But, you know, when he was retiring, he was a basketball player growing up. So I bought a basketball and made literally everyone in like our sixth grade sign it. And we like presented it to him. I'm like the best gift giver, I'd say. And I'm still wonder what Mr. O'Shea is doing. If anyone knows, let me know. Then I go to middle school, and middle school was crazy. It is like you leap from hanging out with children, being the top of the school, to then just being seventh graders. And our middle school was seventh and eighth graders, and we just had the most amazing time. My teachers, I remember Mr. Page the most. He was a history teacher. He was so good, and he was the hardest teacher I've ever had in my whole entire life, but I loved him. He just taught us so much stuff. I remember fixating on learning about like the Holocaust and about the Food Stamp Act and just so much stuff. He was so theatrical. He taught like soccer, and I just was like, man, like what is that guy doing now? But he is a main reason why I found out that eventually I had a learning disability, which is kind of crazy because sometimes I like don't sit there and think about it, but it was nuts. I mean, imagine trying so hard to learn in school, and you want to hang out with the smart kids because the smart kids care and they respect teachers and they care. And I tried so hard all the time to learn and remember things. I couldn't remember things for the life of me. And I was just like, I think something's wrong. And my teacher was like, I think something's wrong. You know, I was staying after school. I had tutors. I was trying so hard to learn. And I just couldn't pass like any of his tests, anyone's tests. And then also I got caught cheating. And my teachers basically... This was, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this. My teachers all told me, like my one teacher in eighth grade, Miss Milo, shout out her, French teacher, she was amazing. They're like, oh yeah, like on your lunch break or something like that, like, can you stay? And it was like super common because like I would always like hang out with my teachers. Like even on a lunch break, I'd be like, oh, does anyone need any extra help? Do you need help grading papers? Like, I don't know, I was just down to hang out and learn more. And I didn't know I basically walked into an intervention, like a straight up intervention with all of my teachers. And I went home and I tried so hard to learn everything that I could. And I just couldn't remember at all. And trust me, because like, we didn't even have cell phones or anything like that. And my parents, they made sure we were doing our homework. My dad was drilling us with math questions and everything. But it was more like remembering dates and like, I don't think we had too many spelling tests in middle school, but remembering dates and just like, you know, science and all that kind of stuff, I wasn't good at it. And they had an intervention with me where they like sat me down and just like, they're like, what is going on? Like, you're such a good student. Like, why are you cheating? But then Mr. Page, I think like told them like, I have this girl after school. We have her doing, you know, tutoring classes, like the girl's trying. And so then they were like, maybe you should go see someone. So I went to, I think, a school psychologist, and then they recommended me to someone. And I took a series of tests for a few hours, you know, a few weeks at a time. And they ended up telling me I had short-term memory loss. Never had a brain injury that I know of. Never had a car accident. Never literally had anything that like could compare to me having short-term memory losses compared to people that have brain problems or a car accident, literally anything like that. And they ended up, diagnosing me with short-term memory loss. So they took me to go get brain scans to make sure like I didn't have a tumor, like all these health exams. And they're like, I don't know, she just has short-term memory loss. That was it. For the rest of my life, I've thought I've had short-term memory loss. Okay? If we fast forward a few years ago, I found out it was just severe ADHD. ADD, whatever which one is what one. I've hardly looked it up. I just found out from finding all the tests that I took, remembering all the tests that I took. I remember the black and white images of a woman walking down the street and her one shoe being more emphasized with one shoelace untied with all kinds of stores in the background. And the thing is I guess like I fixate on the small little details and not the big picture. So I think that's what happens sometimes when I'm studying. I like fixate on that like one date and I'm not learning about anything else. I'm trying so hard to remember that one thing. But, it was like a blessing, not a blessing. I think my parents eased up on me a little bit because they're like, oh, this girl's got short-term memory loss. My sister, she may or may not, have laughed at me a little bit. But, it was something that I had to deal with my whole entire life. But I am blessed because I think if I would have been prescribed ADHD medication, I wouldn't be who I am now. Maybe I would be like in a suit and tie in a corporate office and I'd have a really good job and I probably would make it there a lot faster. But I think the universe all has its vibes, and I think I was meant to be here. Ooh, I'm always just a crying baby, so, just stay with me. But yeah, then, it takes me into high school. Our high school at Seneca West, like, I hope it's still the same. I'm going to get there. Because this is funny stuff. So, at Seneca West, your first day of freshman year, you go to the parking lot with everyone else. And my sister at that point was a junior, and then I was a freshman. And my sister, she was varsity captain of the cheerleading squad. I'm like, oh, we're in. We got friends. But we all show up to the parking lot, and we just have a full-blown party. And I mean, it was orange juice in Solo cups. I'm sure some of the seniors were doing otherwise. But like, how cool was that? We like threw a party in our parking lot. You got there an hour before class started. And it was like a social mingling hour for you to meet like everyone that you were about to go in school with. And like, I remember my parents like, at this point, because we have my little two sisters are born too. And my parents, we didn't have much of a budget to get a sweet outfit for the first day of school. But thank God, I have a huge family. I have an older sister and I have a ton of cousins. So that summer is thrifting summer. You go to all your big cousins' houses, you get all their clothes, and you just like have a girl moment. And they just like style you. And then, you get your like, $50 and then you go to the store and you try to get what you can. But, you just walk into that. And I remember, oh my God, this was so funny. Like, I remember seeing twins for the first time. I never saw them in my life. And this girl walks down the aisle and I was like, wow, that girl's so pretty, blah, blah, blah. I walk upstairs and I'm like, wow, she changed her outfit so fast. And for like 2 weeks, I was like, what is this girl's problem? Why do they just keep switching clothes? It ended up being twins, Sam and Stacy. And I just think that was like so funny because you're just like opened up to this whole new atmosphere. And this is, in high school, this is where I fell in love with television production and why I think I'm here. I was in class my freshman year and the morning announcements go on. And it is Ryan Montalopoulos. This kid is incredible. Now he's living in Atlanta, being a movie producer, like stunt performer, you name it. He's crushing it. But this kid just like, he stole the show. And I was like, what is this class? Television production was a 10-minute segment from, I think, 9 o'clock to 9:10 or 8 to 8:10 in the morning. And you got to do a theme. You had like 60 seconds in the beginning of the show and 60 seconds at the end. Shows like The Office, The Matrix, any TV show that was going on, like we would reenact it. And then the morning announcements, like the sports, the weather, everything for 10 minutes. So I'm just like, I need to join that class. So you can't join it until sophomore year. For a whole year, I was like, I don't even know if I ever ran into Ryan, but my sister was on there too. And like, how cool was that? Like, I'm a freshman over here. I'm like, that's my sister reading, talent A, talent B, doing the sports and doing everything like that. She crushed it. She was always like, my sister just is very, very smart. She's the one who has to study, but she gets good grades. My younger brother, as long as he pays attention in class, he does not have to study. And then I have two little sisters who are 10 years younger than me. So I'm one of five, which maybe I should have mentioned that, but yeah, I'm one of five. And it goes my sister, me, my brother, and then two little sisters. Love growing up in a big family. But fast forward, I'm a sophomore in high school, and I'm able to join the morning announcements, which was just like everything I dreamed of. You had Mr. Meany and Mr. Root, Mr. Root and Miss Meany. And Mr. Root's class was the production side. So all the cameras, the editing, using iMovie for the first time. I remember like my senior year when we finally got like, what was it called? Final Cut. And we were amazed that if your finger was in the shot, you could edit it out. So we thought that was awesome. But then Mrs. Meany's class was a class where you did the script writing and more of like the back end of stuff, more of the marketing, game planning, all that kind of stuff. And it was just so much fun because there was opposite days, and I was so mad because I didn't get Ryan's schedule. And he was just like the mystery man. It's not that I was attracted to him. I was attracted to his personality and his theatrical, and it's why I joined the class. But I was able to join eventually the Cable Club, which I became the president of. Cable Club is the upgraded version of the television production. We were on I think it was like channel 17 in your home. And we would go to all the high schools and we would go interview all the teachers. And I'm just reading some of my journal back when I think it was like 16. And that class taught me all about editing and all about scripting. I was talent A, I was talent B, I was sports and weather girl. You name it, they had me everywhere. I was producing the show half the time. And that was like some of the most fun when you had the headset on, then you had the teleprompter and you're just like feeding the script. But what's crazy is that I went to a very Polish high school. Buffalo's very Polish, and try to pronounce anyone's last name on that show. It was beyond me. I stuttered. I felt like the fact that they kept me on the morning announcements, like, it made, I think my personality, and if the script was going too fast, I just made up my own version of it. They kind of just like let me be me, which was amazing. I think that's the beauty of being in an arts program, is the fact that you get to be your own personality and you got to work with it. But I mean, I can't get over it. High school was absolutely amazing. I had this one teacher tell me how I still like got honor roll and merit roll no matter what, because if I didn't get one of those, Chris and Sue Hall were definitely grounding me, which I was grounded so much in high school. I was sneaking out. I was partying way too much, like West Seneca West through bangers, and then you have West Seneca East over there, then you got Orchard Park, and it's just like all over the place in the best manner. But yeah, I was just always getting grounded. And that's like something that was kind of hard for me because I just really wanted to meet people. And it was just, my parents kind of let my older sister do whatever she wanted. And so I saw that and I was like, oh, I'm going to be able to do that too. Joke's on me. They did not let me do anything I wanted. I think they realized that they let Lauren do too much. So with me, their whole thing was like, Madeline, you're like so outgoing, you're so talkative, that they kind of thought that if I was to ever throw a party at the house, or if I was to go to a party, I would invite too many people and be the life of the party and drink too much. But at the end of the day, there were so many times where I would go and I had practice in the morning. I played varsity tennis, I played varsity lacrosse, and we'd have morning practices, and I just like wanted to go out and go talk to people. It wasn't about the partying, though my journal might say otherwise. But if my parents were telling me like, you can go to this party, only have 2 beers, like I was down with that. But it was like a middle ground that we weren't too into. But in high school, I remember this one teacher, I got honor roll, and we'd go to the cafeteria to go get our free ice cream because that's what we got rewarded. and I had a big purse, and I had a big purse with a plan. I had no reason to bring this like big bag that was like my suitcase, whatever, for all my books. And I went to the cafeteria, and when the teachers weren't looking, I literally pulled out my bag, took all the ice cream, shoved it in my bag, and then went back to the classroom. And everyone who wasn't invited to the ice cream party because they didn't get, honor roll, I gave them ice cream. And my teacher still talks about it. I don't know which teacher that was. Maybe Mr. Rich. No, what's the other one? Mr. Vestola, maybe? Still talks about that because he was just talking about me and just like how I am as a person. And the person I am is just always thinking of others. Because I kind of felt bad. Like, it was like the whole class got up and left, and I swear there was maybe like 7 students. That's just awkward at that point. So I didn't even stay for the ice cream party. I literally brought the ice cream back to everyone. So I just think it's always a testament of who I am as a person. I've said this before. I've always gonna be the same person as I was growing up to where I am now, because I see myself at this high caliber, and I work my ass off, man. I've been running my brand for 4 years and had people tell me it wasn't going to make it. It'll never be successful. And we'll get into that in episode 2 because I got stories. But I've always been a go-getter. I've always been getting after it. Like, I was a varsity tennis player in 8th grade. And it's not that our tennis team was the best, don't get me wrong, but I also wanted to hang out with high schoolers, and I just like was fixated on meeting new people every single day. And I remember just like being so heartbroken if I didn't get invited to a party, but I never had I had my girl gang and everything like that and my guy friend group, but I feel like I was never truly a part of a group. I feel like I was always the loner, and I think that's a part because I didn't want them to be my only group of friends, because you know how it is in high school. You have your jocks, you have your cheerleaders, you have your band geeks, you have the straight edge kids, which you knew they were straight edge because they drew an X on their hand. And then you have the nerdy kids. And I just loved everyone. I remember hanging out, sitting next to this girl, Emily McNiff. And she, we had signed seatings in math, Mr. Meany, he was a little mean. And we had to sit next to each other, and I was like, hi, I'm Madeline. I was all bubbly me, and she was like a little reserved, and everything like that. Emily was just like the sweetest girl ever, but, more on the nerdier smart side. And I just was like, on the second day they were there, she like wasn't talking to me. And I was like, girl, we're going to be sitting next to each other for this whole entire year. I'm like, I want to be friends. I'm like, you're sitting next to me. Like, let's be friends. And from then on, we literally, I don't know how much we hung out outside of school, but in math class, we were always hanging out with each other. And at the end of the year, she like wrote in my yearbook and showed me, she's like, I thought you were going to be a bitch. And I was like, why? Why do people think that? I literally have like a smile on my face from ear to ear, and I'm like the happiest person ever. And I think people see that from me like right away. But I don't know. I mean, people all have their ideas and all have their plans. And, I always like to dress up and, be on point and be presented. I think it's something with my family and having a very English background from my grandmother. Like, my grandma was always dressed up. My mom always looked good. They, always making sure that we were dressed the part. My sister always yelling at me when I wasn't wearing matching clothes. I don't say what, I say pardon, ever since my grandma yelled at me when I was like 3 years old and told me I can never say what again. High school was something else. And look at this. I have my West Seneca West high school. This has to be senior year from 2010, 2011. Look at that. Know what's crazy? I used to have like a pretty big mole on my face. And I think people used to be like, oh, the girl with brown hair, the mole. They didn't know my name. Shit disappeared. It's literally so tiny. It's kind of there. Not going to lie. Sometimes, like when I go out to an event tonight, I'll darken her up a little. I miss her. I don't know where she went. But this was an era. And then we even have so much other stuff with my Buff State ones. But we're not getting too much into college yet. We're still going to talk about high school and how I drove a minivan. Guys, my senior quote, which might be in this book. No, but we'll get into this book when I get into my college era. But it was something along the lines of, don't ever say I should have, or yeah, don't look past on the bad. Hold on, let me think. Something along the lines of, don't ever say, I should have. Always remember you can look good driving in a blue minivan. Yep, that was my senior quote. I drove that minivan all the way to college, no complaints. I would pick up every single one of my friends before school. And it was just like, and the thing is my parents, as soon as I was 13, they're like, go make money, go babysit, go do your thing. And before that, I was doing lemonade stands. Not just your average lemonade stand. I was doing full-blown going to the golf course, sneaking underneath the fence, which my parents knew all about this. My dad would give us $100 and say, we're going to go to Wilson Farms and we're going to buy Gatorades, we're going to buy chip bags, we're going to buy sandwiches, we're going to buy a bunch of stuff, even Wegmans subs. Cut it up, put it in baggies, go to the golf course. I don't even think we sold lemonade. We literally had Gatorade, Pops, all this kind of stuff, a cooler, and we were underneath a tree that you couldn't see so that the golf course couldn't yell at us. I think our whole entire life that we were doing that, which we did it for I think 6 summers straight. We maybe got yelled at twice and just kept coming back. We would so we'd have to pay my dad back $100, and then we would get to keep whatever we made on top of that. Lauren and I don't even know if Daniel did it with us. We were making $75 each. Was absolutely incredible. I think that's where some of my hustler mentality came from. But then also, as soon as I could take the babysitting course, I started nannying right away. My mom has owned a daycare our whole entire life. I think being one of 5 really, opens up those doors for, I think I need to have a daycare. So we had a facility in South Buffalo where we had the daycare for a while. And then my parents turned it in to an at-home daycare where my mom only took a few kids at a time. But my mom also was a lifeguard at Walt Disney. And she was at the 5-star resorts. My mother, if I can find some photos of her and flash her, hot tea. So she taught us all, obviously how to swim at 3.5 years old. But these kids were coming to our house. My parents built an in-ground pool and hot tub. And these kids all learned how to swim by 4 years old. And then I had to take the babysitting course and then went off to babysit and nanny right down the street, the kids that I babysit for, and then nanny for everyone else, because if my mom wasn't babysitting those kids, then I had clients. And then it was word of mouth. And I was rolling in dough in high school. I think my whole entire life, I've never wanted, I think it's very important for parents to tell their kids to not ask for money. My parents didn't have money. They said, don't ask us for money. I remember wanting braces so bad. I needed braces when I was younger, and my parents could not afford those braces. And it wasn't until I was 25 or 26, I got a random text message from my dad, and he was like, hey, your mother and I talked. We could never afford braces when you were younger, but if you want to split Invisalign, we'll go in on it with you. And I was like, they didn't need to do that. And it was so crazy because when I was interviewing for this thing that we'll talk about later, they asked me a moment in my life, and it made me so emotional at that time when I was talking to them, because my parents just never made it known that we didn't have money. And our high school was in general was middle class, but there's obviously kids that are more rich and all that kind of stuff. But when you're feeding a family of 5, and God bless my mother, because she cooked dinner every single night, every night. And I think that's where my passion for food started to come in, is that I really just wanted to help her in the kitchen. I wanted to learn from it. And then also when I was babysitting, I was always cooking the kids. I never was doing boxed mac and cheese or anything like that. I've been a foodie since day one. And the best part about babysitting is raiding the cabinets, from the refrigerators to the vitamin cabinets. I literally loved Flintstone vitamins, loved it. They had omega vitamins. If I was at your house, I was eating your vitamins. If I can revert back to everything, yes, I partied a little too much in high school, but I've always made sure that I was trying my best in school, trying pretty good in sports. I guess I realized I wasn't a crazy sports person. I was good at tennis and I was good, but like I didn't like the morning. I'm just like not a morning person, but we're getting there like day by day. But then, it goes into dating my high school boyfriend. Oh, the first time I fell in love. But we'll talk about that a whole nother time. We are going to be shuffling into the next episode soon where we're going to talk about my college life. Guys, college was wild. And I have journals. In journals. I have like 8 of these. I've been journaling since I was 15 years old, but then my basement flooded one of the journals, so you guys don't get all my high school stories. They were so good. But we are going to be opening this up. We are going to be talking about Madeline's college era, entrepreneurship, how my sister got me into the hospitality industry, where my family is now, my little sister's growing up, and it's going to be good. It's going to be real good. I got this like 1 4-pager in here that just really reverts back to who I am as a person. And I'll say that over and over again because people in social media and on the internet think they know you and they've never met you before. But now they get to see the untold stories of Madeline Hall. So guys, as always, thanks for listening. This is Maddie Tells All. From small town roots to the big city hustle, remember your past doesn't define you. Your passion does. If something hits home today, share it, tag me, even write in. Be a part of this community. This isn't just my mic, it's ours. Check the episode description below for all the links. Until next time, keep building your empire your way.